All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. So I'm finishing up this book from earlier, or I'm gonna finish up as much as I can because I have a lot of tabs on it. But the next thing that I learned in this book was the Triassic period, which was about 248 million years ago, and is marked by the appearance of the first mammals. So that was pretty interesting. Then I got the appearance of the hominids, and then it talks about the first ape-like beings appeared in the Oligocene period, which began about 38 million years ago. And the first apes thought to be on the line to humans appeared in the Miocene, which extends from 5 to 25 million years ago. And this includes the Proconsul africanus and Ramapithecus, so which is now thought to be an ancestor of the orangutan. All right. Then the next thing that I learned from reading this book was the Homo habilis is thought to have given rise to the Homo erectus species, also including the Java man and Peking man. And this goes back to about 1.5 million years ago. So it says that Homo erectus is said to have stood about 5 to 6 feet tall. So that's pretty interesting. Um, believe that from the neck down, Homo erectus was like the Australopithecus and Homo habilis. So almost the same as modern humans. So that's pretty interesting. Let's see. Then it says right here, somewhere around 300,000 or 400,000 years ago, the first early Homo sapiens or archaic Homo sapiens are said to have appeared. Now, I know that because I've read a couple of peer-reviewed articles that the oldest Homo sapien bones that we found so far goes back to about 300,000 years ago, and they found them in Morocco, Africa. So that was pretty interesting. So knowing that bit of information helped me understand what was written in this book when I read that part. Let's see. The oldest undisputed evidence for the presence of Homo erectus in Europe dates back only about 700,000 years ago. And they said the oldest occurrence of Homo erectus in Africa dates back to about 1.5 million years ago. So you can see for yourself how migration happened in the time frame, or at least about the time frame for it. Let's see. It says right here, the famous American paleontologist Henry Fairfield Osborn made interesting remarks in connection with the presence of stone tools in the earliest traces of man in beds of this age. So that's pretty interesting. I don't know why I really marked that, but I still find that pretty interesting. Nothing that I'll probably remember from this point on, to be honest with you, but it's good to reread it at least. Let's see. Let me see. Hold on. Let me check something. Where's my? Okay, there we go. Let's see. Yeah, one of the most controversial questions confronting the New World in paleoanthropology is determining the time at which humans entered North America. So, yeah, there's always arguments about that. I ain't even going to try to get into that right now because that can be an argument for some other time. But that's pretty interesting because, there is arguments about how people came here to what is known as the New World. Let's see. What else? Let's see. Let me see why I wrote this, because this is a long paragraph. Okay, so I know why, and I'm going to quote this, and you'll see why I thought this was interesting. While there is an outside chance that the beings of the Homo erectus type might have been present in England during the time of the Cremo forest bed, The level of technological sophistication implied by his sawn wood tool, I'm going to say that again, implied by his sawn wood tool is extraordinary and suggestive of sapiens like capabilities. In fact, it is hard to see how this kind of sawing could have been produced by stone implements. Small flint chips mounted in a wooden holder, for example, would not have produced the clean cut evident on the specimen because the wooden holder would have been wider than the flint teeth. Hence, one could not have cut a narrow groove with such a device. A saw blade made only of stone would have been extremely brittle and would not have lasted long enough to perform the operation. It says furthermore, it would have been quite an accomplishment to make such a stone blade. Thus, it seems that only a metal saw could produce the observed sawing. Of course, a metal saw at zero point 0.4 or zero point 0.5 million years is quite anomalous. So basically, from all that is that in order to get these types of cuttings that were shared, for one, it suggests that it had to have been some type of sapien like capabilities or intelligence. And then for it to go back 0.4 to 0.5 million years ago of a metal saw being used is actually quite amazing to learn, because if they have metal saws 0.4, 0.5 million years ago, then the building of the pyramids wouldn't be far-fetched of thinking that they had some type of metal to do that, right? But that's another argument for another day. Let's see, what else did I find interesting? Let me see what I wrote about this. All right. So basically, this highlighting portion of the book is the terms of Eolith, Paleolith, Neolith, and have been used in various ways. For most researchers, they have been denoted on not only levels of technical development, but also a definite temporal sequence. Eoliths would be the oldest implements, followed by Paleoliths and Neoliths. So, I mean, you can just look that up if you want. I marked it, and I can just go and look what I can just understand what why that would be important, especially when it comes to trying to date stone tools and the workmanship that came with them. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Let's see. That's not important. That's just a letter that I should just. I know I yeah, I got that letter on my Kindle, so that's something that I'd have to talk about later. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Find some more stuff right here. All right, let's see. All right, so I'm just going to quote this one. Up to now, we have been speaking of the standard evolutionary account of human origins. So in this book, basically talks about the account of evolutionary or human origins. He goes on to say, with the major transitions taking place in Africa, but there is a second, less widely held version of the human evolutionary process. According to this account, the transition of Homo erectus to Homo sapiens took place not in Africa alone, but across a wider geographical range. This means that the precursors of Homo erectus, creatures like Homo habilis, must have been existing outside Africa, perhaps as much as 2 million years ago. According to some scientists, Homo habilis made the very primitive stone tools found in the lower levels of Aduve Gorge, tools very much like Eoliths. It is therefore within the realm of theoretical possibility for some paleoanthropologists that a creature like Homo habilis may have made the eoliths found by Benjamin Harrison in England. So basically, that whole, like I said, talked about in the first video of this, about how out of theory, Africa, how to have happened, if it happened, and so on and so forth. So that's just pretty interesting. I highlighted that for my add that to some ammunition to my knowledge that I want to know. Let's see. Let's see. Hold on. Let me check something real quick. Yeah, I forgot to add that. All right, all right, all right. Let's get back to it. Let's see what else I found interesting in this book. Man, I got a lot of tabs in here. I'm not going to go over every single one of them because a lot of it's going to be repeated many times anyway. Let's see. Here we go. Recent evidence that takes us back 2 million years. Well, let's see. Many discoveries of stone tools have been made in the Siwalik Hills region of northwestern India. The Siwaliks derive their name from the demigod Shiva, Sanskrit Siva, the lord of the forces of universal destruction. So I just probably just marked that just because it has something to do with mythology. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Let's see. Let's go to the next thing. What did I highlight next? Let's see. Okay, here. This is where I always get into trying to figure out what a civilization is because everybody has their own definition or I don't know criteria. That's what's for civilization. So what I found interesting in here is that it says there are, however, intriguing hints of existence of advanced civilization millions of years ago, and it goes to the evidence reported in Appendix 2. But it's not very extensive. Let me see. So I should go to Appendix 2 real quick. Let's see. Oh man, this book is thick. All right, let's see. That's 3. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Okay, so yeah, one of the ones that I found was a shoe sole from Nevada, which is a Triassic period, and it has a figure, and it says A2.6 partial shoe sole in Triassic rock from Nevada. The Triassic is dated at 213 to 248 million years ago. So they actually have a picture here. I'll show you, but I doubt y'all get a clear picture. But right there, that's what they talking about right there. That's what they talking about. That shoe, right? Yeah, that shoe right there. Yeah. So that's one of the evidences that they have. There's some more. I mean, there's a lot in the appendix. They got let's see. They got a figurine from a well at Napa, Idaho, and this object is of Pliocene age, and it's about 200. I'm sorry, about 2 million years ago. I'm gonna say that again. They got a figurine from a well at Napa, Idaho. This object is of Pliocene age, 2 million years old, and I'm gonna show this one right here. So that way, so nobody thinks I'm lying. So when people say, "Hey man, how you know that stuff?" and I'm just like, "Man, I just read a lot of shit." Hold on, let's see all that right there. You see all that right there. Yeah. That's the evidence. That's what I'm saying. So when people say, "Man, how do you talk about?" Why? I mean, like, why would they have figurines from 2 million years ago? Obviously, somebody was sculpting something that looked like somebody, but that's part of the evidence. So that's adding, some things to add some stuff to you. All right, hold on. I'm gonna go back to this. All right. So yeah, like I said, there is evidence of things that go back. I mean, who was sculpting things 2 million years ago? And I get into the types of dating that they use for this. So they talked about how a crude stone tool industry of Eolithic types at Southern California, and the site goes back to 200,000 years ago. Now, in the first video that I did of this, or the first version that I did of this, I talked a little bit about California earlier. So yeah, we got some information that goes there. Let's see the next thing. It says Ramapithecus first came to the attention of scientists in the 1930s. This creature, initially regarded as a fossil ape, was named after Rama, an incarnation of God described in the Vedas. So yeah, so a lot of this stuff talks about some of the mythology, or brings mythology into naming some of these creatures, or species, I should say, creatures. So just know that anything that's Ramapithecus is a name that's after Rama. So bam, that's just throwing some information out there. Let's see. Okay, so this is important. For some research, the terms Eolith and Paleolith represent a chronological succession, but we use the terms principally to make distinction in the morphology of tool types. So when they see one set of tools being morphed to a different type of tools, and they'll give it a name, because it's just what they do. Sometimes you could be making tools from the archaic time and be dated wrong just because of that. I mean, that's not hard. Let's see. The evidence that an intelligent being of the human type produced the flints of the Dene around 20 million years ago in the early Miocene seems overwhelming. So let me read this again, because I was kind of reading that in my head. Okay, so what I found interesting in here is it says the evidence that an intelligent being of the human type produced the flints of Dene around 20 million years ago in the early Miocene seems kind of overwhelming. So they're just trying to say some kind of human-like species were producing certain types of flints, right? And that goes back 20 million years ago. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to quote this. As of the late 19th century, the only fossil remains relating to human origins yet discovered were those of the Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon man. As previously mentioned, scientists favoring evolution thought that the Neanderthals, although somewhat primitive, were too human-like to qualify as a missing link with the Miocene apes. And Cro-Magnon man, of course, was fully human, but Cro-Magnon man did put the fully human type well back into quaternary contemporary with Ice Age mammals such as mammoth and woolly rhinoceros. See, so they just pick and choose what they want to consider quote unquote modern humans or human-like species. That argument is always going to be there, because somebody's going to say, "Oh, that's not the human-like species enough." And what makes us human, right? That's one of the questions that I asked Michael Cremo. You can actually watch the video with me and him on my YouTube. Let me see. Hold on. All right, hold on. All right, let me check. All right, that wasn't that important. They got a lot of pictures of here of different types of flints, different types of foot impressions. Let's see. All right, it just talks about different size of the hominids being small and stuff like that. Let's see. Okay, and the reason why, so it's because it's talking about the pygmy people. And it definitely talks about there are today in Africa and Philippines pygmy tribes with adult males standing less than 5 feet tall and females even shorter. So what I've learned over this, just researching and reading these two parts right here, because it also talks about uh, uh, the different time periods for these individuals. The pygmy people of today are the smallest, shortest individuals in the world, right? They're considered, and I know 5 feet to some people is not considered, what they consider pygmy and shortest people, but they're considered, the pygmy people are considered shortest people in the world. And then the tallest people that I learned are people that come from Sudan, which are known either as the Dinka people, and I think there's another name for them that I can't remember exactly, but I know one of the names is Dinka people, and they're supposed to be the tallest individuals in the world. And I learned that stuff from reading this book. I'm not sure exactly where it talks. I don't think it talks about the Dinka. It probably does say Dinka, but I'm probably thinking of it, wondering, using the other word that's not used, because I can just remember that word easier than I can remember the other one, of course. All right, in this book, it talks about the evidence of intentional use of fire. And let's see, I highlighted something, but let me see if it gives me a good date. Uh, Okay, it doesn't give me a good date yet. Not on this part that I highlighted, which you would think it would be interesting to know. Because you would think that would be the first thing that they would give. Yeah, so it doesn't give one. It gives the name of a person, which is Amigino. Let's see. Okay, it says Florentino Amigino discovered remnants of hearse in the form of burnt earth, charcoal, and burnt animal bones. So basically giving evidence of, on this page right here, I don't have anything highlighted for the time and date for that exactly. So of course I would have to go research that person to find that. Which I find kind of interesting because, like I said, that would be one of the first things that I'd highlight. But let's see. But here we go. Mallory in 1951, in page 100, stated that earliest iron smelting furnaces in both the old world and new were merely shallow pits with rounded bottoms located on the hilltops in order to catch the usual updraft of air from the valley below for combustion. They were built close to the edge of the hillside facing the prevailing winds. So that gives you an idea of how earliest iron smelting was. Of course, I don't have a date yet for that, but let's see. No, they got a lot of tables in here too. So, but I'm not here for that right now. I'm just sharing things that I got highlighted. It's pretty interesting that they actually have a date to present, and that you have to actually go read more. I'm pretty sure they probably did. It's just probably later in the book or later in that chapter or not. Let's see. You know what? I ain't even gonna lie. I heard so many different dates for fire being used. That would probably just add another few numbers to the mix that I don't even really can't even give honest information about. But here we go. So they got a mortar and pestle that was removed from a mine tunnel penetrating the tertiary deposits, which goes back 33 to 55 million years. And they have, like I said, and it was found in California. This goes back 33 to 55 million years ago. That's crazy. That's crazy because the argument of when people came from the old world to the new world is an argument. Let's see. Okay, so the Java Man was hailed as the much sought after missing link connecting modern humans with supposedly the ancestral ape-like creatures. So the missing link between apes and what we call modern humans today, the Java Man. Yep, Java Man Pithecanthropus erectus. That's what they call Pithecanthropus. I'm not even trying to say that again. Let's go to the next thing. Let's see what else did I find. Man, I still got a lot more tabs, but most of them was just stuff. Let's see. It's not too much. Let's see. Okay, so evidence for a fully human presence 3 million or more years ago in Argentina of all places is still not welcome in mainstream paleoanthropology. So listen, I'm gonna say it again because when I read these things, I'm trying to just read it in my head and I read it out loud. Do what I do. But evidence for a fully human presence 3 million or more years ago in Argentina of all places is still not welcome in mainstream paleoanthropology. So evidence of fully human presence goes back 3 million years ago, possibly in Argentina. So that just puts a monkey wrench into everything. Let's see. Let's see. Done. All right, here we go. Meganthropus is the opinion of von Goensvog, was a giant offshoot from the main line of human evolution. All right, that's pretty interesting. Let's see what's the next one. All right, so a Piltdown man is a creature with a human-like skull and an ape-like jaw. So now take this into consideration. There are people out there who will base their whole theory off of just a freaking jaw or a skull and say, yeah, that's modern humans. But right here, a Piltdown man is a creature with a human-like skull with an ape-like jaw. But what's a human-like skull, really, right? Like, what gives you an indication of a human-like skull? Is there certain things that says this is a human-like skull? And I'm pretty sure there is because I'm not a scientist in this field. But how do you distinguish that from being if we have close relationships with, like they say that we do with these ape-like creatures, how do you distinguish that saying that this is a human-like or this is ape-like? Like in what ape-like species does that skull represent, right? Because human-like, I mean, the argument for that just goes on and on. But can you tell me if it's a orangutan type skull, or is it a chimpanzee type skull, or a gorilla type skull? I mean, can you give me an indication? And probably did, but I didn't read it. But like I said, I'm just trying to if I want to, I can go do some more research into that. And I'll be honest with you, it really don't matter to me because the argument of what a human is I'm not going I'll get the answer to that, but I definitely won't get the answer to a human because everybody will have their own criteria and information. But just to know that you can have a species that has ape-like features and human-like features. So that's pretty cool. Okay, here we go. And of course, I was probably looking for the answer for that, right? So here, I'm going to quote this. This is a couple of pages after that. It says, since so many scientists, I'm going to say this again, since so many modern scientists have indulged in speculation about the identity and motives of the presumed Piltdown forger, we would also like to introduce a tentative hypothesis. Consider the following scenario. Workmen at Berkman Manor actually discovered a genuine Middle Pleistocene skull in the matter described by Mabel Kenward. Pieces of it were given to Dawson. Dawson, who had regularly been communicating with Woodard, notified him. Woodard, who had been developing his own theory of human evolution, who was very worried about science's lack of evidence for human evolution after 50 years of research, planned and implemented the forgery. He did not act alone, but in concert with a select member of scientists at the British Museum who assisted in acquiring the specimens and preparing them so as to withstand the investigations of scientists not in on the secret. I ain't gonna say nothing else about that. You want to know more, just go back and listen to it. That's just pretty interesting because the word forgery or forgery, man, here we go. It just keeps getting worse. It says Vason de Padini of the École. I'm just going to, it's placed at the Anthropology in Paris, wrote in his books, Frages Archeologiques. I just read this page 524, the Piltdown Showdown. Okay. The words I'm butchering, but it says right here, one often finds men of science possessed by a preconceived idea who, without committing real fraud, do not hesitate to give observed facts at a twist in the direction which agrees with their theories. Man, that just sounds like they're just trying to create a narrative, find enough evidence to go ahead and get your narrative, and then anything that doesn't go with your narrative, let's just push that under the rug. That's pretty interesting, though. Let's see. It says over the past few decades, science has developed a comprehensive cosmology that explains the origin of human beings as the culmination of 4 billion year process of chemical and biological evolution on this planet, which, talks about the Big Bang. And I actually wrote an article on that, but this is not even, I'm not even going to get into that because we all know these theories right here, or most of us at least. Let's see. Okay, so this is, I'm gonna quote this. The Peking man had come at just the right moment for advocates of human evolution. A few years previously, in one of the most famous trials in the world's history, a Tennessee court had found John T. Scopes guilty of teaching evolution in violation of state law. Scientists wanted to fight back hard. Thus, any new evidence bearing on the question of human evolution was highly welcomed. So that's pretty interesting to know. Let's see. We ain't gonna talk about those stone tools. We know stone tools go back millions and millions of years. I mean, they got a lot of stuff in here that talk about stone tools and time frames that they go back and where they go back to. So that's interesting, but I'm not going to beat the dead horse if I don't need to. Someone's like, you're talking about building a dead horse, whatever. All right, chapter 10 is about living ape man. So let's go see. I highlighted that whole chapter, so of course everything in that chapter is interesting to me. The largest of bears is the Kodiak bear. Highlighted that. Let's see. All right. So during the Middle Ages, wild men continue to be depicted in European art and architecture. A page of Queen Mary's Psalter, composed in the 14th century, shows a realistically depicted hairy wild man being attacked by a pack of dogs. Now, this is where I talked about Bigfoot, Yeti, and Enkidu from the Sumerians, and I should say the Mesopotamian time frame. And of course, in here, this is the European wild man. It has a description of European wild man. Then it has Northwestern North America, of course, and gives you all the ideas of Bigfoot and stuff like that. Here's a quote. I'll read this quote. It's a description of, let's see, let me make sure. Yeah, encountered a wild man. So here's a quote. It says, "It came to the edge of the bush. I was hiding in within 20 feet of me and squatted down on its haunches, etc. Reaching out, its hands pulled the branches of bushes toward it and stripped the leaves with its teeth. Its lips curled flexibly around the leaves as it ate. I was close enough to see that its teeth were white and even. The head was higher at the back than at the front. The nose was broad and flat. The lips and chin protruded further than its nose, but the hair that covered it, leaving bare only the parts of its face around the mouth, nose, and ears, made it resemble an animal as much as human. None of this hair, even on the back of his head, was longer than an inch. And then on his face was much shorter. Its ears were shaped like a human's ears, but its eyes were small and black like a bear's. And its neck also was unhuman, thicker and shorter than any man's I had ever seen. So that's just a description of a wild man that somebody gave. I thought that was pretty interesting because Bigfoot is a big thing right now. Then it talks about the Yeti, wild men of the Himalayas, and one of the first paragraphs that I highlighted was the diaries and papers of British officials residing in the Himalayan region of the Indian subcontinent during the 19th century contain sporadic references to sightings and footprints of wild men called Yeti. So obviously there is some evidence of what we understand as a Bigfoot, a Yeti, or a wild man. You know, it gives here's one. Here's a drawing of a Mongolian almas from a 19th century Tibetan book. Right there. See that right there? So they have evidence, you know what I'm saying? They just don't have one on camera right now. Let's see. Who's to say they ain't learned how to avoid those though, right? I mean, never know. Let's see. The last Australopithecines perished approximately around 750,000 years ago, and Homo erectus died out around 200,000 years ago. It is said that the Neanderthals vanished about 35,000 years ago. But yet many sightings of different kinds of wild men in various parts of the world strongly challenge the standard view. So they basically, from what I understand, is that there's some Neanderthals running around here. Cro-Magnon man, the first representative of Homo sapiens in Europe, and it gives a little description of that. But what's so funny is that the Homo sapiens didn't originate in Europe; they originated somewhere else, and you can look that up because I like to challenge people. It ain't come from Europe, I can tell you that. That's why I don't understand why. I'll get into that some other time. But let's see. All right, so from Lewis' study of the OH 8-foot, one could therefore conclude that Homo habilis was much more ape-like than most scientists have tended to believe. And the OH62 discovery supports this view. So just look up that if you want to know more about that Homo habilis and the more ape-like views of them. Then I don't know really why. Let's see. Okay, so I think the reason why I marked this is called the pelvis of the Australopithecus, and it says the impact, and I think the reason why I did is because I was looking more into what makes us human. I know I talked about that earlier, and it's everything that I see so far is when we went from when we started moving bipedally. So that's walking basically on your legs. So that's why I marked that, and I did some deep search in that. But I'm not here to talk about that too much. The Australopithecus afarensis, which is known as Lucy. I know a lot of people would say, well, they debunked it, Lucy. No, they didn't. What they did was that they didn't find a complete set from just one Australopithecus afarensis. So what they did is how would they do it today if they were trying to figure out what kind of human species we were? Well, what they would do is they would take, okay, so me and 5 other people, right? So a total of 6 people, right? We would all be missing some type of bones, right? Like we wouldn't be a complete set. So to make us a complete set of human species of what we are, they would take all the bones of us, take what's the best ones from all of us, right? And just put basically a skeleton version of what Homo sapiens. That's what they did. Okay, so when people say, when you hear somebody say they debunked Lucy, no, they didn't, because those are bones from that time period, and they were able to use the best ones from that time period. You're going to use your best material for a presentation, right? You're not going to use your worst material. I mean, you only use your bad material when you have nothing else to reuse it with, right? So they used the best that they could. So yes, Lucy is an actually skeleton set, and it's definitely real, and it's not debunking. And anybody that tells you other than that, they just like to argue and they don't like to read anything. Because this has been said over and over and over and over again. You can actually go see it, see the bone, the skeleton at the museum. I can't remember which one. I flipped the page already, but okay, so this is important because I'm almost done, and then I'm going into the other part. So this is the last thing or one of the last things that I found very interesting. It says, having reviewed the history of African discoveries related to human evolution, we can make the following summary observations. There is significant amount of evidence from Africa suggesting that beings resembling anatomically modern humans were present in the early Pleistocene and Pliocene. 2. The conventional image of Australopithecus as a very human-like terrestrial biped appears to be false. 3. The status of Australopithecus and Homo erectus as human ancestors is questionable. 4. The state of Homo habilis as a distinct species is questionable. 5. Even confining ourselves to conventional accepted evidence, the multiplicity of proposed evolutionary linkages among the hominids in Africa presents a very confusing picture. Combining these findings with those from the preceding chapters, we conclude that the total evidence, including fossil bones and artifacts, is most consistent with the view that anatomically modern humans have coexisted with other primates for tens of millions of years. So you can just take that how you want to. Take that how you want to. Take it how you want to. All right. So next thing that I found interesting was, and this is in Appendix 1, chemical and radiometric testing of anomalous human skeleton remains. I highlighted the nitrogen content test because it gives you different tests that I was telling you about. The fluorine content, the uranium content, the carbon-14 dating of bones. The carbon-14 test is different from the nitrogen, fluorine, or uranium content in that it gives absolute rather than relative ages. Principles of carbon-14 dating, it gives you information on that. Let's see. After this, I'm going to read a book. Radiocarbon dates versus stratigraphy, which is more reliable. It gives you that. So read that if you want to. If you want my opinion, just ask me the question and I'll give it to you. Let's see. It talks about letters in marble rock, which was found in Philadelphia. Age is uncertain, so I ain't even going to get into that. I ain't even trying to say, hey, Rebirth said that. No, I ain't say that. You ain't gonna catch me on that. I talked about the shoe already because it told me to go to that page earlier. Let's see. I think that's it. Hold on. Yeah, I think that's it. No, here we go. A shoe print in Shao from Utah. So in 1968, William J. Meister, a draftsman and an amateur trilobite collector, reported finding a shoe print in the Wheeler Shell near Antelope Spring, Utah. This shoe-like indentation, which gives you the figure 282.8. I'm looking at it right now. And its cast were revealed when Meister split open a block of shell, clearly visible within the imprint were the remains of trilobites, extinct marine arthropods. The shell holding the print in the trilobite fossils is from the Cambrian and would thus be 505 to 590 million years old. Crazy. Then it talks about a grooved sphere from South Africa, and it says figure 829. It says a metallic sphere from South Africa with 3 parallel grooves around its equator. The sphere was round was found in Precambrian mineral deposits said to be, this is fucking crazy, 2.8 billion years old. Can you imagine humans shaping metallic spheres 2.8 billion years ago? 2.8 billion years ago. This is why I say when I read stuff and I share it, it's like I'm just like, yo, this is what I read. This is crazy. And they give you a picture. Like I'm gonna show you because y'all don't think I'm bullshit. It gives you a picture right there. So all you got to do is to say that somebody is wrong. All you got to do is just research this and be like, okay, I have more information, which I did. So I'll get into it in the future, but I'm not going to do it right now. But that's it. So the books, I have a lot more tabs on here, of course. A lot of them. But I went over just a few of them. I'm not trying to go over every single one of them because, well, I've read every single one of them because I go through and highlight it. Let's see what's the next book that I'll talk about because I have a list on my website. You see it scrolling on the bottom. Hold on. It says visit www.rebirthoftheword.com for more knowledge. But I have a list of all the books that I personally own on there. And I'm going to do this sharing these books and what I've highlighted. So let's see. What's the next book? So hold up. So the next book is I actually have it here because it's actually using it to write my book. I'm actually in the middle of writing a book and I'm on chapter 9 now. Should have my book published sometime this year, hopefully by the end of the year. I actually have 3 books that I have in mind for this. So I'm actually writing the kids version of the book that I'm writing now. But this is the next book that I'll be going over. It's called it's a Rose Book of Bible charts and maps and timelines. And as you can see, got a lot of tabs on here too. So I'm gonna go over here. I don't know when I'm gonna do that one. I'll probably take a couple of days off from doing this because I don't want to do it every single day. I don't want to burn myself out. But I do have hundreds of books. And I will do this until I'm no longer breathing. This is not something that I'm just doing just because I'm trying to get on the content creating stuff. This is just, I'm gonna be honest with you. I created my website because I had so much information from reading so much that I felt like I should share what I've learned. And that's why I built my website, rebirthoftheword.com. And I'm slowly updating that. And then I have my YouTube channel, which this is also being live streamed too. So this is just, I'm basically just trying to build a memory bank of everything that I've learned. And I'm sharing it slowly through all the platforms that I can. I also have a TikTok, but my TikTok is just basically short videos of the stuff that I do here and whatnot. But so the next book, like I said, will be the Rose Book of Bible Charts, Maps, Timelines by Rose Publishing. And then after that is going to be a whole, I got another. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to go through this list of all these books. But that's it, y'all. Appreciate y'all coming through. Take it easy.